Question. Why are you watching this video?
Well, the main reason I found your video is...
Answer. Because it showed up in the suggested videos.
No, actually, what really happened was...
On your feed there in YouTube. That's why you're watching this video. That's how you found me.
No. Hold on. That is not how I found your video. What I do is I type in atheists into the search engine on my YouTube thing. I do that quite often. And what usually happens is someone like you will appear in the video search and I listen to the video or watch it.
Otherwise, there's no reason for you, an atheist, to watch a video from a theist Christian.
Oh, I can think of quite a few other reasons that I am an atheist, and I can think of quite a few other reasons why I would watch a video done by a theist. As in your case, your title is just a little bit, well, clickbaity.
Say, hey, I have no interest in debating you as far as what we fundamentally perceive as reality, but instead, I just simply want to ask you questions about how you perceive reality because I like studying other people.
That's fantastic, because that is what I do on YouTube. I love to find people and see what makes them tick. What is in their mind? Why do they believe in things that they believe? That is what I love to do. Awesome.
People say, well, really? What's your religion? Why do you ask atheist questions if you're not trying to convert them?
Well, really, atheists ask you that? That doesn't seem strange to me. I know a lot of Christians. I grew up an atheist. I grew up around Christians. You're all over the place. A lot of you just like to talk to people and do the same thing because I like to do that. I think that's a pretty noble thing to do, to learn somebody else's. It's the closest I can get to walking in other people's shoes. That is, I think that's a great thing, and it's flattering to people if you do that to them, right? Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I think it ultimately started when I was an English teacher in Thailand. Back in the summer of 2003, as well as 2004, I was an English teacher in Nonthaburi, which is a part of Bangkok, Thailand.
Ah, cool. Indi Tine Nutsa.
And I loved that place. I love that country. Wonderful people. Just such a magical place for me. Now, with that being said, most people in Thailand are not Christian. They're Buddhist. And I got to see their beautiful country. I visited their temples. I appreciated their culture. Never once was there any kind of argument or debate. They knew that I was Christian. I knew they were Buddhist. And we were friends. We had a great time. I love those people.
Well, yeah, that would make total sense because you were in a Buddhist country. And Buddhists are part of the Eastern philosophy mindset. And there is a fundamental difference between the Western and the Eastern mindset in philosophy. The main difference being that Western is individualism and Eastern philosophy is collectivism. The main principle of Eastern philosophy is the cosmological unity. You know, it's the main point in the journey of life as it goes towards the eternal realities, which means it's a circle. It never ends. There's no Revelations, Day of Judgment, or Armageddon, whatever you want to call it. As compared to Western philosophy, which it's based on self-dedication to be of service to others, and life is service to God or to money, to the community, and that's kind of what that's all about. And because of its Christian influence, it has to be a beginning and an end to find the meaning. Without the end and the beginning, there can't be any meaning. And Eastern philosophy it just always was, and it always is. That's kind of, we're just in this web and flow. So there's the difference there, and that's why people get along with you so well, because they just accept the truth for what it is. They don't really go trying to change the truth like a Westerner does.
That is, we can be reasonable, emotionally intelligent people that aren't here to prove each other wrong.
Wrong. Just kidding.
We're ultimately mutually psychologically studying each other. That's really why this is fun. That's why you keep coming back. And
It is my first time here, but you're a nice guy, so I might be back.
You keep coming back and you don't have the power to resist the thumbnail of my face when it shows up in the suggested videos.
Are you daring me? How can you resist this? You'll be back at my channel.
Videos. Now, that being said, what I want to address in this, and I'm asking you to help me understand this. It keeps coming up, this concept of how an atheist is defined. And I didn't know at first because I was awkward and clumsy as I was navigating this thing that I know nothing about, and that is atheism. But people who are atheists made it very clear to me that the single way to define an atheist is it's a person who does not subscribe to the concept that there is a God or gods that exists. Anything beyond that is fair game, including the afterlife, as long as there's no God attached to that. That is how an atheist is defined. So if I add anything else in there, then that's not the true definition of an atheist, and that has been confirmed by many atheists who have watched my videos before and will have to comment on that.
That is correct. Atheism only deals with one thing, and one thing only, and that's the existence of a god or gods. Even used in philosophy, in philosophical debate, atheist is used as one thing. It only addresses one thing, and that is the belief in a god or gods. Now there is an actual earlier meaning. If you look at the etymology of atheist, it starts out way back in 532 BC or something like that, and it was actually ironically used by the Romans to label Christians that wouldn't worship the Roman gods of that time. Later on, it was used by the Christians when the Christians overtook the Roman Empire, and then it was used to label people that didn't believe in any gods. So it's actually, now think about that too though. I also use atheist as believe in. I don't believe in a god. That means I don't believe that they're worth the time to worship them, as the way it would probably have meant when they first came up with the word to label the Christians or whatever, the atheists back then. Yeah, it's an interesting history on it. Check it. You were an English teacher. Check the etymology on that word. It's an interesting word.
Here's where it gets confusing to me, and I'm asking for your help on it. So, if your perspective is based on there being no God, what throws me off is why God is such a part of what atheists talk about. That's confusing to me, because if you've noticed, I actually don't often talk about my own Christian beliefs here. Have you noticed the irony in that? That not only is a Christian asking atheist questions, but I'm not trying to convert anyone. And I'm not actually getting into any details of what I believe, other than the fact that we know, as a Christian, that I believe that Jesus is the Son of God, and that we were all born with a sinful, fallen nature. And ultimately, it's not a matter of that you're a good or a bad person. We were all born with that sinful nature. And the only way we can be saved is believing in Jesus Christ to have eternal life. Yeah, that's what I believe. And you know that, because fundamentally that's how a Christian is defined, as far as what their fundamental belief is. Beyond that, I haven't gone into any details, because ultimately I knew that it would be a waste of time, because I don't want people thinking I'm trying to convert them. I want to be known as, ironically, the Christian who's not trying to convert atheists. Just want to conversate with you. But what I'm confused about is why atheists talk about God so much.
Well, let me try and quote your last sentence. Well, let me paraphrase it. I want to be ironically known as the Christian that doesn't try to convert atheists. That should answer your question there.
That's weird to me, because you're defined by saying you don't believe in this thing that theists believe in. You don't subscribe to that mentality. But yet, there's so much talk about God and trying to prove that God doesn't exist.
Ooh, I gotta say, you were doing good till there. No, atheists, most atheists that I know, they're not out to try and prove that God doesn't exist. As a matter of fact, most of us know that we can't even do that. That is an impossible thing to do. At least, I'm not going to be able to get to the entire universe and check it all out and figure everything out about it. At least in my lifetime, I'm not going to be able to. No, I don't. In fact, can't even think of anybody that I know of that is out to prove that God doesn't exist. No, my friend. We are just non-believing. That's what it is. There may be some people, but you can't call it that. Atheist doesn't fit that label for that person. There'd be some other subcategory that someone's out to prove that God doesn't exist. And in fact, I can't think of the name of that. I think it's a mesotheist. I can't remember what the name is. I think it's a mesotheist is out to try and disprove God or something like that. But I'm probably wrong on that because it's been a while since I've checked into all the different theist type titles there are. But anyway, no, there's nobody out trying to prove that God doesn't exist. Yeah, that's just wrong.
Doesn't exist. So that's interesting because, and I can understand it maybe from two different perspectives. But the first one is that for me, if I were an atheist, and I thought, okay, I do not believe God exists. There is no God. If that's what I thought in my mind, then I wouldn't talk about God because I believed he was a social construct. It was a fairy tale, something someone made up. I wouldn't talk about something that I didn't believe existed. It wouldn't be part of something I would even care to talk about. I mean, if I were an atheist, I wouldn't care to talk about God because it would be a waste of time. It's not something I believe in. So that's confusing to me that if atheists are defined by not believing or subscribing to the concept that there is God or gods, then why even talk about it?
Well, that's just it. Being an atheist only deals with one thing, which means you have conservative atheists, you have liberal atheists, you have libertarian atheists, you have Buddhist atheists. We span every culture.
Then why even talk about it? It seems like that would be a waste of time. I guess on the other hand, the identity of an atheist is that, especially in America, my understanding is most atheists came from a background of a Christian background. And therefore, if they engage in some conversation with someone who is Christian, then naturally they're wanting to prove and carry on that idea that there is no God, that God definitely doesn't exist.
Okay, well, this is going to be... I'm going to interrupt you every time that you say that an atheist is out to prove that God doesn't exist. Because that is not what an atheist does. That is a different type of person altogether. I'm going to keep on reminding you so that you get it in your head. No, we just don't believe the claims that the theists have made that there is a God.
So even though they don't believe there is a God and don't subscribe to the concept of deities, it becomes this mission to prove that God doesn't exist to those who believe. And I guess ultimately I'm asking a question here. Are there two different views on this? And I've even read in the comments, some European atheists seem to be the atheist that I'm describing that I would be if I were an atheist.
No, we don't. Like I said, we are not trying to prove that God doesn't exist. And as far as Europe goes, there's plenty of people across the seas, across the pond that are speaking out against.
Why even talk about God? Because I don't believe there is a God. If I were that kind of atheist, I think that maybe is the more European approach to atheism. Whereas the American version is most atheist Americans used to be Christians, so a lot of what their agenda is to carry on that message to Christians and help remove the blinders from their eyes to show them, hey, you say that you once were blind and now you see, but no, Christian, it's the opposite. You've been blind and I want you to see that there is no God. And I'm telling you, this is my perception, and yes, it's based on my whole life believing in God. I can never remember a day I didn't believe in God. He's always been a part of my life. Always.
Tell you what, because somebody else, I want people to believe things that are true. Said that God told them to do it. Bob comment group, things like that. And I don't think that your beliefs are true. Said that God told them to do it. That's no offense, but I don't think that that's true. Because somebody else, it causes people to do things because somebody else said that God told them to do it. Things like that. Hey, look at Westboro Baptist Church. That's a good example of people that are kind of going down that wrong path. How about Jim Jones? How about the David Koresh and the Branch Davidian? How about what are the guys that Haley Bob Comet, whatever, Hale Bob Comet group or whatever that drank Kool-Aid or whatever and killed themselves. They castrated themselves because they thought they were going to go to space in a comet.
So with that being said, it's just interesting because for me, in my limited perspective, which I'm doing my best to change by having these open, honest conversations with atheists, in which I'm not trying to convert them, or wanting to debate whether God exists or not. I just want to have these conversations. Ultimately, it's confusing because if it just seems like atheists, American atheists in general, especially the ones majority of people who live in comments and watching these videos, it's as if they're trying to, forgive me for the use of the word convert, it seems like atheists are trying to convert Christians out of Christianity.
No. There's a reason why I do that. Why I speak out and try to find out why. Not so much that I'm trying to prove that God's wrong and that God doesn't exist. I'm trying to get people to think about their beliefs, because a lot of us, can see that falsehood that you've got within the beliefs. Maybe you don't think so, but yeah, you do.
And I've read these articles where there have been atheists who have put up billboards. They spent money to put up billboards to try to convince people that there is no God. That seems like a conversion process to me.
There's people trying to say that the Earth is 6,000 years old. There are flat earthers out there. There are people trying to put creationism in the textbooks as the Earth is being 6,000 years old. And that, to me, is not science. It is wrong. It goes against every single academic institution that there is. There might be one academic institution that says that the Earth is 6,000 years old, but they aren't credible.
That seems like a conversion process to me. And there's something about that seems like a religion, even though it's an insult to ever imply to an atheist that their viewpoint in some way seems like a religion if you're trying to convert people, even though it's the opposite of conversion, but you're still trying to change their view of it, that there is no God.
The billboards aren't there to try and convince people that there is no God. They're trying to get to other atheists that feel that they are, well, a lot of atheists feel ashamed that they lost their faith, and that can be a lonely thing for them. And there's another reason that I'm speaking out, because I want atheists to know that you shouldn't be ashamed of it, and maybe you should be that way to the atheists too. The reason the billboard is there, it's for those atheists to know that it's okay that you don't believe in God. You just can't. You can't force someone to just believe something. Yeah, you have to be convinced. The Christians have not met the burden of proof for us on proving that their God exists, and that's just it. If you haven't met the burden of proof, but you're still shamed by the way the Bible talks about you, that's going to make you feel really bad, and you're just going to feel alone. And there's nothing worse than feeling alone. You Christians, you have a friend that we can't see, but you believe they're there looking after you.
So ultimately, my main question is, are there some of you out there who fall into more of what I'm calling the European atheist? And that is, if you believe God doesn't exist, then why talk about God? Why is that even taking up space in your brain? Why are you even using your words to talk about that and try to convince people that there is no God if you don't believe there is no God? Why wouldn't... Well, I don't know exactly what your message would be and what you'd have to say, and maybe those are the atheists who aren't watching my videos because they don't care to begin with, and talking to someone who... It just seems, in the same way Christians carry on this gospel message, it seems culturally, a lot of American atheists have their own version of the gospel that they're wanting to carry to believers that is the opposite, that none of this is real, that the gospel was always made up, and it's time for you to see the truth. Am I right about this? I'm asking questions here, wanting to understand ultimately the psychology of atheists in the same way that you're curious about the psychology of this particular theist. Leave a comment, and we will take this conversation to the next level. Comments right here.
Hey, thank you for your video. Hope you didn't take mine as offensive. Well, leave a comment. Well, no, obviously you can see that I made a video.